We now find ourselves in about the middle of the month of January, and it seems almost a little strange to talk about New Year's resolutions, to ask whether you have any hopes or aspirations for the new year. So often by this time, people feel as if they can hardly remember if they made any resolutions. We've already been a couple weeks into the new year. But I have a feeling, even for those who say they do not make resolutions, that you did have some hopes and dreams and aspirations for 2021. I know as a faith community here at Northminster, there certainly are dreams and aspirations for 2021. As we look through this year and look throughout the year, we are excited about the possibility of bringing together a PNC committee, of doing planning that will assist that committee, and then beginning that search process. But this year, it truly is difficult to allow those dreams and aspirations to stay alive. There still is so much that we feel we will be encountering with the pandemic. But then there's been this chaos in our country the last couple of weeks and possibly for the next few days. We know that we are in a country that truly was a dream, a hope. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Our country built on principles of truth-telling and trust and respect. And it seems that we have seen some of that called into question these last few days. Even from the highest levels of government, even from our president, it seems that we have incited people to violence. And so it's difficult to have aspirations, to have dreams. But on this day before we celebrate and remember the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I think of a contrast. I think of words that Martin Luther King shared in his I Have a Dream speech in 1963. I'd like to share just a few lines with you. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. As we look out over a new year, as we think of what those dreams are for us, what are our aspirations and hope, we need to be called to this soul force that is at work. I believe in our gospel lesson this morning, we saw the power of this soul force. We saw what happens when individuals just have a brush or a glimpse of the living God. Because when one would have a brush or a glimpse of Jesus, one had a brush with eternity, with the divine. And we see the soul force released in their lives. For Philip, who was open to the power of this force, we see that he immediately wants to follow Jesus. In fact, he is so impacted that he wants to go and get Nathanael and have Nathanael come and also meet Jesus and follow Jesus. In Philip, we have one that was open to this force, but in Nathanael, we discover one who was closed to this brush encounter and what can happen in one's life when you just touch the seams, the fringes of eternity. See, in Nathanael, we saw that he was closed down by his need for context and content. See, the context for him was the fact that Jesus was from Nazareth. He saw someone coming from a region different than his own as someone who truly could not be worth his time. And then also he was closed down because of content. He doubted what Jesus first said about him. He was wondering how he could possibly know that information. He had no faith in those words. I believe as we think of our own dreams and hopes and aspirations, especially those of us in a faith community and understand what it means to have this brush with the eternal God, with the divine, I believe we have to ask ourselves individually and as a community and as a country, are we open? Are we open to this soul force and the power that it can release? Or are we closed? Are we closed, and do we question someone's context and separate ourselves from them? That truly shuts down the dream, even as Martin Luther King shared when he first spoke these words. Or is it content? Do we question whatever we hear that someone else may be telling us, assured that we certainly have the right information, the right material, the right way, the right belief? And so here we are as we look out over a new year. The possibility of the dream, of aspirations coming to reality are stronger than ever. But we need to look at ourselves. Are we open to this possibility? Because even as Jesus encountered Nathanael, who at first was closed, we hear that as Nathanael opens up, Jesus shared these words with him: "You will see greater things than these." You will see greater things than these. I believe if we are willing to have lives that are open, to know that we have had this brush with eternity, as we look out over a new year, we too will see greater things than we have ever known. To God be the glory. Amen.